At 1. The HALM 101. Section 2. Magic 101, on a Thelemic approach to magic. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Introduction. The subject of magic is a vast and difficult subject. What is magic? Is the K silent? And what is the purpose? Union with God. Why bother? When he maintains that his subtler principles are merely magic in theory and practice. 7. Every man and every woman has a course, depending partly on the self, and I. Definition. Magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. I. Postulate. Any required change may be effected by the application of the proper kind and degree of force in the proper manner, through the proper medium to the proper object. I. Theorems. 1. Every intentional act is a magical act. By intentional I mean willed. But even unintentional acts so seeming are not truly so. Thus, breathing is an act of the will to live. 2. Every successful act has conformed to the postulate. 3. Every failure proves that one or more requirements of the postulate have not been fulfilled. 4. The first requisite for causing any change is thorough qualitative and quantitative understanding of the conditions. 5. The second requisite of causing any change is the practical ability to set in right motion the necessary forces. 6. Every man and every woman is a star. That is to say, every human being is intrinsically an independent individual with his own proper character and proper motion. There are a number of different techniques and different formula. The best is to find what works for you and practice. The following items in this document are excerpts from various sources which outline a wide variety of subjects, from the theory of magic to banishings and ritual construction. Love is the law, love under will. Partly on the environment which is natural and necessary for each. Anyone who is forced from his own course, either through not understanding himself, or through external opposition, comes into conflict with the order of the universe, and suffers accordingly. 8. A man whose conscious will is at odds with his true will is wasting his strength. He cannot hope to influence his environment efficiently. 9. A man who is doing his true will has the inertia of the universe to assist him. 10. Nature is a continuous phenomenon, though we may not know in all cases how things are connected. 11. Science enables us to take advantage of the continuity of nature by the empirical application of certain principles whose interplay involves different orders of ideas connected with each other in a way beyond our present comprehension. For instance, irrational, unreal, and infinite expressions. 12. Man is ignorant of the nature of his own being and powers. Even his idea of his limitations is based on experience of the past, and every step in his progress extends his empire. There is therefore no reason to assign theoretical limits, note, that is, except possibly in the case of logically absurd questions such as the schoolmate discussed in connection with God. 2. What he may be, or what he may do. 13. Every man is more or less aware that his individuality comprises several orders of existence, even at 2. Light symptomatic of the changes in his gross vehicle. 8. Similar order may be assumed to extend throughout nature. 14. Man is capable of being, and using, anything which he perceives, for everything which he perceives is in the certain sense a part of his being. He may thus subjugate the whole of the universe of which he is conscious to his individual will. 15. Every force in the universe is capable of being transformed into any other kind of force by using suitable means. There is thus an inexhaustible supply of any particular kind of force that we may need. 16. The application of any given force affects all the orders of being which exist in the object to which it is applied, whichever of those orders is directly affected. 17. A man may learn to use any force so as to serve any purpose, by taking advantage of the above theorems. 18. He may attract to himself any force of the universe by making himself a fit receptacle for it, and arranging conditions so that its nature compels it to float. toward him. 19. Man's sense of himself as separate from, and opposed to, the universe is a bar to his conducting its currents. It insulates him. 20. Man can only attract and employ the forces for which he is really fitted. 21. There is no limit to the extent of the relations of any man with the universe in essence, for as soon as man makes himself one with any idea, the means of measurement cease to exist. But his power to utilize that force is limited by his mental power and capacity, and by the circumstances of his human environment. 22. Every individual is essentially sufficient to himself, but he is unsatisfactory to himself until he has established himself in his right relation with the universe. 23. Magic is the science of understanding oneself and one's conditions. It is the art of applying that understanding in action. 24. Every man has an indefeasible right to be what he is. 25. Every man must do magic each time he acts or even thinks, since a thought is an internal act whose influence ultimately affects action, though it may not do so at the time. 26. Every man has a right, the right of self-preservation, to fulfill himself to the utmost. Men of criminal nature are simply at issue with their true wills. The murderer has the will to live, and his will to murder is a false will at variance with his true will, since he risks death at the hands of society by obeying his criminal impulse. 27. Every man should make magic the keystone of his life. He should learn its laws and live by them. 28. Every man has a right to fulfill his own will without being afraid that it may interfere with that of others. For if he is in his proper place, it is the fault of others if they interfere with him. From Magic in Theory and Practice by A. Crowley. Please see that work for illustrations of these principles, which have been deleted here for brevity's sake. BTCI B. Bob and ISH. Weapons, dagger or sword. Element, air. To banish is to remove that which is unwanted, inimical or superfluous from yourself, your instruments, and / or the place where you are working. P. URIFY. Weapons, cup or ewer. Element, water. To purify is to cleanse yourself, your instruments, and / or the place where you are working. C. CONSVCRATE. Weapons, oil or censer. Element, fire. To consecrate is to dedicate and devote yourself, your instruments and / or the place where you are working. I. In ITIDE. Weapons, will and love, toil and aspiration. 4. At 3. Powers of Sphinx. Element, all. To initiate is to transform yourself, your instruments, and / or the place of working. This formula is to be used to the creation of each item in your armory. It is also recapitulated in every ceremony you perform. Rituals for banishing, purification, and consecration are provided below. Initiation rituals depend on a multitude of factors. Basic elements of ceremony